Hello and welcome to Food for Thought. This is the soap wrap-up episode. On this episode, we're going to talk about what's happened on the soaps the past 2 weeks since the ball dropped at Times Square. So it's basically the first 2 weeks of January. All right, on The Young and Restless, Dylan has gone undercover. Nikki and Paul are concerned, and for good reason. I mean, everybody knew he wasn't in a good place emotionally, and now he's gone undercover into what's supposed to be a very dangerous situation, trying to nail some major drug dealer. Did you happen to catch Dylan and his new look on Young and Restless this week?
I must have missed that one. I'm sorry.
You didn't see him with his hair slicked back and he grew a goatee and...
No, I don't think I did. I think it was off doing something else.
You might not have even known it was him because he kind of looked kind of different.
Could be.
But anyhow, he was all slicked back. All right, so he's changed his look and he's getting busy with the drug dealer's top female aide, I guess you would call her, to get to her boss. So basically, he's kind of cheating on Sharon, messing with this brunette, trying to get cozy up to her so he can get to her boss. That's not going to end well, let's face it. Anyhow, Nick and Chelsea were getting closer on New Year's Eve. In fact, they almost had sex on Victor's couch, which was kind of uncouth when you think about the fact that Faith and Christian were right upstairs. Did you happen to catch that? The couch scene?
I think I caught the tail end of it.
Well, you call it soft porn in the afternoon, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's kind of what it is.
You caught the tail end of it? Oh, that's cute. The tail end of it. All right. Anyhow, they stopped themselves, and now they've drifted away from each other. So we kind of saw that around New Year's Eve. The episodes that happened around then, they got close, they were half naked, and now they've kind of drifted away from each other, and we haven't seen much of the two of them. Many people have talked Nick into chilling out where Sharon is concerned. Basically, what's best for Faith is for Nick and Sharon, her parents, to get along. And so Nick's finally chilling out a bit and getting over his anger about Christian being kept from him. And he's being a little bit more decent to Sharon. By the end of this week, in fact, we saw Nick was comforting Sharon on the couch because she's scared to death that Dylan is basically now, as far as she's concerned, he's missing. She hasn't heard from him. She doesn't know if or when she's ever going to hear from him again. And she's really worried about his safety. So Nick was comforting her. I think it was Friday's episode. So we see now we have a pulling together, and once again, Nick and Sharon. And we do know that these two have great, vast history together. And they do pull together when the going gets tough. And it could very well be that they end up back together again. Won't be soon, but it could happen. Anyhow, Gloria is back in town and wreaking havoc in both her sons' lives. What's up with that woman? I don't understand why she would want to come back into town and then go against her daughter-in-law, and try to conspire with Jack to take Fenmore's away from Lauren. That just it seems just wrong, and I'm not sure why she's doing it. Kevin and Chloe had some adorable romantic moments in the past 2 weeks. Chloe showed up at the police station and in a trench coat. Here we go, a trench coat again. But in a trench coat, nothing on underneath, flashing Kevin in the police station. Now let's talk about the irony there. Let's face it, being naked is indecent exposure, and she's doing this, opening up a trench coat to bare skin in a police station. So that's like the ultimate irony. Anyhow, we continue to see a softer side of Victor Newman. Are you fans enjoying this? Have you noticed anything different about Victor?
Yeah, he's becoming a wimp.
Yeah, well,
by his standards.
Yeah, but I mean, is it a bad thing? Is it a bad thing to see? I mean, let's face it, he's getting on in years. I mean, does he always want to be at war with everybody?
Well, you're supposed to get crotchety as you get older. It's part of getting older.
And if anything, yeah, he's getting sweeter. So it's kind of an oxymoron. Anyhow, are people wondering or concerned about this Rovi? Is his name Rovi or Robbie? Sometimes it sounds like people are saying Robbie. Sometimes it sounds like people are saying Rovi. If anybody knows the answer to this question, please comment underneath this video if it's Robbie or Rovi. It could be Rovi. Rovi is a very popular name. in the Indian type culture, so it could be Rovi. But anyhow, is anybody getting concerned at all about his infatuation with Ashley? Because I think it could turn dangerous. That's kind of it for right now. I mean, Young and Restless, since we have the I think, what is it, Sussman, since she's taken over the soap again, we're kind of going back to basics, which is good. I mean, we do have the Devon storyline going on, and he is having flashbacks, but that's kind of back to basics too, about people lying to him for his own good right now, but the truth will come out. We're going to move on to Bold and Beautiful. So we've got Steffi gave in and she moved out on Liam. You know, her grandfather said it's improper for you to be married to one brother and living with the other brother. Well, yeah, that's improper for not just somebody who's a CEO of a company. That's improper for anybody. You know, I mean, America really needs to check mark its friggin' morals, because, you know, it just, oh, you're the CEO, you can't be doing that. Well, even if you're just not a CEO, even if you're just, you know, the average American woman, you shouldn't be living with one brother while married to another brother. That's really not okay. Anyhow, she gave in, she moved out, and but she has every intention of moving back in. Quinn's attraction, let's talk about Quinn a minute. Her attraction to Ridge is growing. However, on Friday, Quinn realized that Ridge was playing her. So she realized what he was doing, and she stopped him in his tracks. But while he's playing her, you can see that he is also attracted to her. So what I think we have going on here is that Ridge is fooling around and falling in love. What was that song? What was that? The Elvin Bishop song, "Fooled Around and Fell in Love." That's what these two have going on right now. I mean, they're both fooling around and they're falling in love. You know, they're trying to scam each other and they're falling fast, and they're not going to be able to stop this. So that it's actually going to be very interesting to watch that happen. And then, of course, Ridge is going to end up leaving Brooke, and then, you know, Brooke may very well end up back with Bill, but at the same time, Bill is once again getting close to his ex-wife. So who knows what's going to happen when all that comes around again. For whatever reason, this soap seems to go in circles. And we're going to talk about the continual circle in 1 minute. No, maybe let's talk about it now. So Brooke went off.
Let's talk about it now, shall we?
Yeah, I think we should just talk about it now. So Brooke went off to Italy to see Hope. Now, the whole world knows that. Every person that watches Bold and Beautiful knows there's always been the Hope, Steffi, Liam triangle. And then there was a Hope Liam Wyatt triangle, and then for a little while there was what the heck is her name, the Australian, I can't remember her name right now, but anyhow, then the cousin came in, and then there was a triangle between her and Liam and Wyatt, and now Steffi's back, and there was Liam, Wyatt, Steffi, and then Steffi married Wyatt, and now she left Wyatt, and now she's back with Liam. So how many people want to bet that Brooke brings Hope back? Might not be the Hope everybody wants. They may have to get a new actress. But then again, maybe she will be back. As a matter of fact, I have a feeling she may be back. And anyhow, what do you think is going to happen when she comes back? And I just want to throw this out here for a minute. She was married. Hope was married for a short time to Wyatt. Hope was pregnant and lost Wyatt's baby. What would happen if she comes back, finds Steffi with Liam, so she decides to give Wyatt, who's married to Steffi, another chance, and she gets back with Wyatt? What do you think Steffi's reaction will be if her nemesis, her cousin, Hope, comes back and then goes to take her husband away from her, who she pretends to have no interest for? You know what they say, we don't want something until somebody else wants it, and then we want it. I think that's what's going to happen here. I think Hope's going to come back, and I think that she's going to get back with Wyatt, because Wyatt, I'm not sure he's done loving her yet, and then we'll see what happens. So anyhow, I just want to talk a bit about the portrait that Eric had done of Steffi. That was a beautiful portrait. Whoever did it, it was beautiful work. It might have been a photo turned into a portrait. I don't know, but it was beautiful. And of course, he offered her her place over the mantle, you know, and basically one day she'll be the matriarch of the family. And by the way, if this soap goes on for another 10, 20 years, she will be the matriarch. And of course, he offered her the house. Now, Thomas is back without his baby mama or his son. That was a little weird. And I'm wondering if anybody else thought that was weird. And that's kind of about it right now. Next week, we're going to see more Ridge, Quinn, and more of the triangle, of course, because they never get away from that. Let's move on to Days of Our Lives. What's our time count, Mr. Producer Director?
10 minutes, 47 seconds.
Okay, we're okay. All right, so on Days of Our Lives, Chloe's mom, Nancy, can anybody be more of a biatch than this woman is being? She knows that this little girl, this little baby, Holly, is Nicole's child, yet she is doing everything she can to keep her from her. This woman who has would do anything to have a baby and has lost 2 children. I find this storyline very frustrating and very hard to watch. It's awful. It's simply awful. Anyhow, over the last 2 weeks, JJ rescued a little girl, and then it made it seem for a moment that Gabby may have been seeing him in a different light, but I'm not sure. She may be giving him another chance. She may not be giving him another chance, because it's clear that Chad and Abigail are trying to work it out, but it's also clear that it's not working too great. They're both trying very hard to have a marriage, but there's definitely, and I don't know if you've caught any of that with me in the last 2 weeks, as far as Chad and Abigail.
Well, I just wondered whether or not the Russians hacked into their relationship.
The Russians may have hacked into their relationship. Okay, so and it's obvious that Chad's still having feelings for Gabby, and Gabby still has feelings for Chad. So there's going to be that push-pull going on. We're going to probably see that for weeks to months. Is there anybody out there watching at this moment that thinks that Abigail actually has chemistry with Dario? I do. Not only do I think they have chemistry, I think that they're probably going to end up in a relationship. It's more than a feeling, people. It's more than a feeling. Okay, so Hope is out of prison. I'm not really sure. I mean, I know she was in a dumpster. I'm not sure if she climbed in that dumpster on her own accord or somebody put her in there.
Maybe she was dumpster diving.
She was, I don't know, but the dumpster then was removed from the prison, and then she went to climb out of the dumpster, and there was somebody there, and it scared her, and she knocked him out, and then it turned out that Hattie he was one of Hattie's friends who sent him to go get her, and she ended up, when she knocked him out, she ended up hurting herself, re-injuring, where she was stabbed with a shiv. She was bleeding, and she ended up falling down, hitting her head. Next thing we know, we see somebody with black, it looks like hiking boots, and black slacks and black gloves, picking her up and carrying her off. So we need to say, who was that? Was that Aiden? Who was carrying Hope off? We would have to assume warmth and safety, since she was laying out there in the snow, with her head by cold hard rocks. Anyhow, the sleuths, this unruly bunch that took off to Peru to look for Stefano, of course, have not found him. They found a bunch of trouble, gotten themselves into a bunch of trouble, but they have not found Stefano. Okay, very sad. Jade lost her baby, so we had to watch these 2 18-year-olds suffer a miscarriage, and the acting was really pretty good, and it was very upsetting to watch that. Theo, hates his father's girlfriend. His father's girlfriend found out that he and Claire had planted a bug in her pocketbook. She found the bug, a listening device. Again, might be Russian, could be Russian. She found a listening device in her pocketbook, and she confronted Theo. So now they have an understanding. Basically, you stay out of my way with your father, and I won't tell your father you put a bug in my purse, and we're listening to my conversations. Days ended on Friday with Chloe going over to the Kyriakis mansion with the intent on telling Nicole that she gave birth to her baby. But when she got there, she saw the engagement ring. And by the way, Nicole and Demos got engaged. And the ring she picked out kind of looked like a wedding band, not an engagement ring. But I know in today's world, women are actually picking very different looking rings as engagement rings. Beautiful ring all the same, though. She noticed the ring on Nicole's finger and did not proceed to tell her that she gave birth to her baby, that Holly was actually Nicole's baby. She walked in just moments before Demos was busy threatening somebody over the phone. He was threatening somebody's life over the phone. So, of course, the doors to the to the big fancy living room open, and Nicole and Chloe are standing there listening to Deimos threatening in front of Sonny, threatening to end somebody's life, whoever he was talking to over the phone. He was threatening that person, or telling that person to threaten somebody else, which of course is going to make Chloe decide not to tell Nicole the truth. Looks like, the hiding of this parentage, which of course Holly is Nicole and Daniel's child. Looks like that's going to continue into next week, and unfortunately, probably months to come. Let's move on to General Hospital. So Nancy Lee Grum is doing some of her best work ever in her career with the alcoholic storyline. She was so phenomenal at
I'll drink to that.
Did you catch any? I'm going to have to make you cat when something really cool is going on. I'm going to have to say, get in here and look at this. She attended her first AA meeting, and it was emotional, and it was, heartstring pulling. It was, she did really some good work. You would believe that she was an alcoholic by some of the work that she was doing. Like, I need to ask her, did she research this? But anyhow, is there anybody else out there that is, or thinking along the lines that Julian was forced into acting the way he did last year? So, okay, we saw Julian, who was this loving, devoted husband and father who had left the mob and wanted to have a new life with Alexis on the up and up. And we watched him digress into being like this evil mobster who eventually put a blade to his wife's throat and was threatening her life in an alley. And if it wasn't for Sonny, we are to believe that he would have killed Alexis. Well, it looks like that might have been play acting for Julian, because it looked like he might have been forced to act like he didn't care about his family, and there's probably a good reason behind that, or for that. So anyhow, it looks like that's where the writer's going with this, and it does look like Julian and Alexis, that their great love will be rekindled, and that they will be reunited. Because they really do still, the characters really do still love each other. That's why he's at her house, because he's really worried about her. Okay, so Sam and Jason continue to hide the sex of their baby. People have to wonder why. In today's world, yes, it's most people choose to know what their baby is. So now they do know, and it was Maxie's fault, basically, when they, she ordered the cake. So basically, Maxie knows. And they know, but they're still not letting the viewer know. And I'm not sure what difference it makes, boy or girl. A baby's a baby. And I guess they think it's some big suspense for people. What's our time?
18:18.
Okay, so I gotta kind of wrap this up. Anyhow, Nathan and Maxie were told this week that Claudette is dead. Now we know that she's not. We know that Valentine paid somebody, or paid the cops in Canada, to come and tell Nathan that Claudette is dead. He still got Claudette somewhere. But then again, we did sit and watch him tell that little girl that the woman she knew, his mother, is dead. And that was pretty heartbreaking. Okay, so Nathan, because Maxie got sick, she got the flu, and he had found out he was still legally married. Now that Claudette is dead, he can marry Maxie, so he has enlisted the help of several people in Port Charles to throw a surprise wedding. And they pretty much had Maxie pick out everything she'd like at this wedding by making her think that it was for the next issue of the magazine. But anyhow, a surprise wedding is upon us this week. So we're going to see the wedding of Nathan and Maxie this coming week. We all know that over the past 2 weeks, Bobby declared war on Nell. Little does she know that Nell is her granddaughter. She's going to probably feel pretty lousy when she finds that out. We also know that Sonny threatened Nell this week. So basically, he threatened his stepdaughter, and he actually didn't sleep with her. So eventually, this will all come out that she pretended they slept together. I mean, they slept in the same bed, but there was no sex. Also, we all saw that Franco had been knocked out and abducted. Who do you think did that to him? So is anybody wondering who knocked Franco over the head and then dragged him to that warehouse? Did you see that part?
I didn't see that part, but I'm sure it had to be Putin.
Anyhow, Franco gets knocked. He was knocked on the back of his head. I rewound and watched this scene over and over again. Yet when he woke up, the blood was coming down the front of his face and over his cheek, over to where, his old tarred scar used to be when he was tarred on One Life to Live. But anyhow, he wakes up and he's like, where am I? And he finds out he's in a warehouse, and he starts opening boxes and comes across a lamp, and he's like, what am I going to do with this? Next thing we know, we see him wrapping himself up in bubble wrap, rocking himself like a baby, laying on the floor. Well, what that is supposed to illustrate to us is that, well, number one, he's upset. Number two, he's probably going into shock because he has a head injury. There's no heat in that warehouse, and he's cold. That's why he's wrapped up in bubble wrap, trying to... Do you think the bubble wrap would generate body heat?
It will hold in body heat. Don't you ever watch MacGyver?
It's funny you should say MacGyver because Richard Dean Anderson, who played the original MacGyver, was Elizabeth Weber's father on General Hospital. So it's so funny that you should say that.
How about that stuff, huh?
Yeah.
How about that stuff?
Well, it kind of all goes full circle. But anyhow, yeah, he was... let's see, Rick Weber, and what was the other Webers? Jeff Weber. Jeff Weber is Elizabeth's father, who now turns out that he's Hayden's father as well. So he's a busy little bee when he was a younger guy. Anyhow...
I don't think it was the bee.
It wasn't a bee?
It wasn't a busy bee, no.
Okay, as long as we don't talk about pee. We don't want to talk about pee or golden showers or any of that. We would never even dare mention something like that during this soap wrap-up, would we? Anyhow, Roger is Roger, who is, that you all know on this soap, Franco, who started out as Todd on this soap too, is an excellent actor, and he's a lot of fun to watch. Anyhow, Kiki and Elizabeth, who are his two biggest fans on this show and his two best friends, are working together to try to figure out what's happened to him because now they know he's missing. Okay, and I want to say, I want to mention too that maybe, just maybe, Tom's brother, the guy that Franco's being accused of killing, maybe his brother has done this to Franco. Anyhow, do the viewers want to see an Alexis Julian reunion? Let me know. Right at the bottom, right where it says comments, post down there. Let me know. Do you want to see an Alexis Julian reunion? Do you think they're good together? Well, folks, that's all for now. Thanks for tuning into Food for Thought. Please leave your comments and thoughts below, and I will respond to them next time. See you soon. Bye.
Animal Track Studio.